Do you want to know the top five things that you must have in 2021 to be a surveillance investigator? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you right now. We're just going to jump right into it. The first thing that you must have to be a surveillance investigator is a high quality video camera and a covert camera. I know that's two things, but we're just going to call it one. Number one is a high quality video camera and a covert camera. You need to have something. It does not need to be a 4K camera. You do not have to go broke to get a camera. I suggest a 1080p camera or at the very minimum a 720p camera, but I always use a 1080p camera. A good camera like this you can get used on eBay probably for around $100. You can get a new one probably less than $200. It is a good camera. This is my preferred camera. This is my Panasonic camera that I use for surveillance. It's not 4K, it's not super high def, but it is 1080p, 60 frames per second. It is a really good camera. Speaking of covert cameras, you can even use a camera like this as your covert camera. You can if you need to. Often I will just flip that over. This will then fit right into my pocket. I can carry it around. I'd have it a little bit lower, but I got to put it up here in the camera range for you. And I can turn it around and I can shoot video of everything that's going on. I can have it cupped and I can have it down there and I can hold it. It'll fit back into my pocket. If need be, you can use your high quality, high def, 1080p regular video camera that you use for your regular surveillance for a covert camera. Or if you want, for your covert camera, you can just go ahead and use your cell.
This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today.
My camera is right around in this area right here. Yours might be up here. Yours might be up here. But everybody out there has a cell phone and they're out doing stuff. So I could be sitting here right now videotaping you on my camera on my phone. I can turn it over this way. I can pretend like I'm talking on the phone. I can put it over on the other ear and I can pretend like I'm talking on the phone and shooting video over there. It is perfectly fine to use that if that's what you need. Or if you want to get super duper fancy, you can get one of these. No, wait, not one of these, one of these. This is an iPhone 6. It's actually popped into an iPhone 6 case that is actually a covert camera. It shoots video right out of here. This is actually my preferred covert camera. I've got a bunch of them, but I like this one a whole lot because I can tie it via Wi-Fi to the phone that I have here, or I can tie it to my other phone and I can actually watch what it is recording, and I can start the recording, stop the recording, do all kinds of things like that, even play it back. But you don't have to go that far. If you're just getting started, you can use one of these. You want to make sure your cameras have date timestamp as well on them. Now, they don't always play back with the date timestamp on them, but if you set the date and the time into the camera, then it most likely will put the date timestamp into the meta information on the video for you, so then it's there. And then when we get to software, we'll talk about the needs of putting the date timestamp into your video. Number two, a surveillance vehicle. That's right, you need a surveillance vehicle. You do not want to be out there trying to just do surveillance on foot, standing down the street at the corner watching. People are going to think you're a little creepy. You can't do it very well on a bicycle. A motorcycle doesn't work at all. You need a good, reliable surveillance vehicle. That's the key to your surveillance vehicle. It needs to be reliable. When you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're ready to go, your car needs to start for you. When your subject leaves, your car needs to start for you. It needs to be reliable first and foremost. Now, it also needs to fit in with the surroundings and in with the traffic. I always suggest to think about something like a soccer mom vehicle, an SUV, old minivan, something like that. Gray, neutral colors, something like that. You don't want to be out there in a yellow Lamborghini or a bright red Corvette trying to do surveillance. You need a good surveillance vehicle. If you can, get tinting on the windows. Make sure it's legal tinting. Make sure you can see out of it. But you want tinting on those side windows so people can't see in. Now, if you're just getting started and you can't afford tinting, I understand that. When I first started, I didn't have tinting all the way around in my vehicle either. But I found places where I could park, like under shade trees near fences, things like that, where my good, reliable surveillance vehicle kept me hidden a little bit. We're going to move on to number 3 right here. A computer with internet. You need to have a good, reliable computer, just like you had to have a good, reliable surveillance vehicle, and it needs to have internet on it. It doesn't have to be the latest, greatest, super fastest internet, but it needs to be reliable. You are going to have to send your client lots of things, reports, video, different things like that. It needs to be reliable so you can send your client all that information. You are also going to need some video editing software. Now, I'm going to say something here that's going to get a lot of surveillance investigators up in arms. Your video editing software does not necessarily have to be able to have date timestamp in the video visually. For some things, that's the caveat in there, for some things. So if you're just getting started, and let's say you're just doing a lot of infidelity cases, things like that, cheating spouse cases, you have to remember your video camera, if you can set the date timestamp in the video camera, if you can go in there, then the date and time is going to be embedded into the metadata of the video. So if it's ever challenged, you can provide that video that has that metadata and it shows the date and the time in there. Your preference, though, is to have it display on the video during playback. To do that, you're going to usually need special software. I recommend IVE, Investigator Video Editor, to do that. It is video editing software made by private investigators for private investigators. Does a lot of cool things, and one of the things it does is pull that metadata out of the video from the camera and it can display it onto the video during playback. But if you're just doing some simple things like, again, infidelity, stuff like that, that may probably not end up in court, people are just looking for a little bit of information, then you might be able to start without doing that because that information is going to be in your meta. So you can just use free video editing software out there, something like Windows Movie Maker, something like that. There's a lot of different free ones. I still suggest to go out and get IVE for your video editing software. No, they're not a sponsor. I don't get any money or anything like that. It's just really, really cool software out there. You're also going to need some report writing software, and you do not have to go out and buy the latest and greatest wonderful report writing suite of software or anything like that. There's lots of free things out there. Myself, I do use Microsoft Office, so I use Microsoft Word, but you don't have to do that. If you don't have the money, you can go out and you can look for things like LibreOffice, OpenOffice. There's a lot of free software packages. You just want to make sure that they will produce a good quality report for your client. We're going to go on to number 4, food and water. You need to have food and water. You're going to be out there for a while, probably more than an hour or two. You may be out there for 6, 8, 10, 12 hours at a time. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You want to have some good food. I usually recommend dry foods, that kind of thing. You want food that's going to be nice to your body and not make you have to be running to the restroom all the time. I'll just leave it right there. You're going to need water too. You don't want to get dehydrated. You want to take care of your body. I highly suggest you don't go out with soda pops and coffee and a lot of caffeinated things. If you're not going to just use water, then use sports drinks or something like that. But keep yourself hydrated. While we're on it, it's not on there. Here's a quick bonus tip. You're going to need personal facilities because you're going to be intaking food, you're going to be intaking water, and there might need be the necessity of some outtake there as well. And you don't want to be leaving your surveillance to have to go to the restroom. Number 5 is here. Again, a 3-in-1. You need to have patience, desire, and integrity to be a surveillance investigator. Patience is always a requirement, but it's even more so today. You need to be able to go out there and you need to be able to set up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and you may not get activity until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You need to have the patience to sit there, and you're just going to stare at that door. You're just going to watch that car. You are just going to wait. You are not going to be out there doing a bunch of other things. You're not going to grab your cell phone and start playing video games and watching everything that's going on while you're reading books or you're doing other things. You have to have the patience to be able to sit there and stare at that door for very, very long periods of time, day in and day out, all year long. You also have to have the desire to be successful at surveillance. That goes a long ways in helping you with your patience and your integrity as well. desire to get the job done, desire to wait things out. Otherwise, it's going to be way too easy for you to go ahead and pick up that phone and start sending emails to clients or texting your spouse or whatever it is. You have to have the desire to be a successful private investigator. And then integrity. Integrity is probably the number one biggest thing that you have to be a successful surveillance investigator. If you don't have integrity, then you will be doing all those other things. You will be sitting there playing video games, reading books, watching PI Guy videos. And it's okay. You can turn on the PI Guy video. Just go ahead and stream them all and set the phone down. You can listen to them. You don't need to watch my ugly old mug. You can just listen to all of the great advice on there. I listen to podcasts a lot when I'm out doing surveillance. But you have to have the integrity. You have to make sure that you stay there through the entire case, whether it's 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour. You need to have the integrity that you report to the client exactly what happens. If you lose your subject, you need to have the integrity to tell the client that you lost the subject. If you didn't get the video of the money shot, you need to have the integrity to put in your report that this is what you observed happen. However, due to a complication, you were unable to get video. You have to have a high level of integrity to be able to be successful. Otherwise, the rest of that doesn't really matter. So make sure that you have integrity.